Hello everybody! Welcome back. It is Obscure Nick here today with a new video, and today we'll be discussing the life of Diff'rent Strokes child star Dana Plato and what happened in her life that led to her demise. So as you know, let's deep dive and thrive. Dana Plato was born on November 7th, 1964 in Maywood, California. She was birthed by Linda Strain, who was a teenager at the time and was pregnant when she was pregnant with Dana, which led to her being adopted by Dean and Florine Plato. At age 7, she began doing commercials and was in over 100 of them.
Wrigley experiment? We all liked it. Me and all my friends.
Eventually, she landed roles in movies such as California Suite, Exorcist II, and Beyond the Bermuda Triangle. In 1995, in an interview with Marilyn Keegan, she said her mother kept her living a sheltered life, her adopted mother, so she grasped no reality apparently. Most notoriously though, she was known as a child star in the 1970s and 80s show as Kimberly Drummond in the hit comedy series Diff'rent Strokes, that some of you may be familiar with.
What you talking about, Willis?
Well, she played the sister of Gary Coleman's character Arnold and Willis on the show. Now, from the show specifically, the three main stars suffered from hardship later in life, and at one point Gary Coleman, Todd Bridges, and Dana all were getting into legal troubles, and they became known as the Diff'rent Strokes curse back in the 90s. A lot of them seem to regret or resent this show in some way, I feel like, because they probably got typecasted. See Dana Plato being typecasted as this one sort of one-note character as well. And I feel this may be the same case for Dana from how her life turned out, and I would not be surprised if she was taking advantage in some way from producers. And there has been some speculation about that for years. There are a lot of really chilling Diff'rent Strokes episodes, especially the one called The Bicycle Man. That episode with that predator old man who was preying on Arnold and Arnold's friend. I forget his name, and they bring him over to his house and everything, and that one leaves a chill down my spine, and we would have to do another video to really deep dive into it, but some of the plots really emulate like Hollywood in general, and especially in the 80s. Don't even get me started with Alfie's Soda Club and Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, because there was a lot of strange things happening in this period of time around Hollywood, which I wouldn't be surprised if Dana got caught up in all that. Why I think there was something that happened to her on Diff'rent Strokes set is because A, she was hypersexual at a young age. Usually that's a sign of someone who has been assaulted, or because sexuality was inserted into her, most likely. Todd Bridges always said that his first sexual encounter with a woman was Dana, and they were teens then. So there were some sexual things going on that Diff'rent Strokes set, clearly, if Todd Bridges is admitting to that. And Todd Bridges has his own stories of being assaulted himself by men and producers, he said. So there's a lot of speculation that's leading back to that. And we will do a whole video on him as well, and a whole video on Gary Coleman eventually, and what their stories led to. And Todd Bridges is the only Diff'rent Strokes star of the three that is living to this day. As well, B, my second point is there are quite a few episodes throughout the series where Kimberly was in a bathing suit, and mind you, she was a young teen girl while filming the show, so we can do a whole video as well on Diff'rent Strokes episodes that were bizarre, because there are a few ones that really stand out. And then C, she does display signs of talking really fast and always having a smile, and I think usually when people do that, they usually are hiding from their internal struggles. And we will see more of that as we get there in later life. And she was very hyper. Like, her energy emulates Amanda Bynes in a lot of way. And we all know Amanda Bynes' stories. You can go watch my previous videos on why that was the way it was.
For myself, I got pregnant with my son Tyler, and they let me go.
So in 1983, Dana Plato was fired from the series Diff'rent Strokes because she was pregnant at 17 with her first child. And producers were not having it, and they wanted to cover that up. And I think Dana Plato knew she was gonna get fired though, too. And this is where her downfall truthfully begins in terms of it being in the public eye. Her reason behind getting pregnant, according to her co-star Conrad Baines to People magazine, said that she deliberately got pregnant while doing the series. Where I spoke to her about it, she was enthusiastic about having done it and saying that when I get the baby, I will never be alone again. Because Dana has a whole issue of being abandoned, and this is usually a case with people who are adopted, with kids who are adopted. I know many people who were adopted that tend to go through these phases, or they tend to have a behavioral pattern of always feeling abandoned, always on the search for something, always on the run. And that's the type of way they act in a way, because they don't feel like anybody truthfully loves them. And when she could have a child of her own, she would never feel alone again. Around this time as well, her adoptive mother was sick, and that was like one of the only family members she had. Her adoptive mother kept her normal and in a plastic bubble, as described in this 1995 appearance.
I stayed out of the Hollywood scene. You know, if I didn't have to go, like, to a quote-unquote party, you know, I wouldn't. My mother made sure that I was normal. The only thing that she did, the mistake she made, was kept me in a plastic bubble. So I didn't learn about reality and life skills.
So the plastic bubble was what? To protect you from
To
the
protect
world?
me from, I think it was that she was afraid I might be kidnapped.
Yes.
You know,
Okay.
that kind of thing. Right, she didn't, I mean, I had to be in very early in the evening. I had to be in before dark. I mean, she always had to know where I was at all times.
Following the pregnancy in 1983, Dana married her boyfriend, Lanny Lambert, a guitarist, in April 1984, and soon after, her son Tyler was born in July 1984. And they were together for a couple of years until January 1988, when they separated, which was the same week her mother died. Later in March of 1990, they finally divorced. And in that divorce, Dana lost custody of her son to her ex-husband. However, she was given free visitation rights. I don't know exactly why she lost visitation rights, because it wasn't really said to the public, but during this time, I guess it's because she was drinking like crazy and losing control of her life slowly but surely. And she talks about it in this 1995 clip.
I had been married for a real long time, and I had 2 years with my son, and my husband left, and my mother died. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to deal with that. I had no life skills. You know, I was not taught any life skills, and I drank to kill the pain. And I drank and drank and drank and drank and drank. And, you know, I did.
Now, what did you do again? I missed that. Yeah.
I drank. And finally, I had to give up custody of my son because I could not help myself, you know. And I did. And I relapsed, you know, a few times.
I think there was a reason behind that, because it was probably she was drinking because of her mother's death and everything, and that's why Lanny and her went their separate ways. I don't know much about Lanny Lambert, so I don't know how he's like as a father or an adult, and I don't know if he was more stable than her. I think he probably was, because he's still alive to this day. In 1989, Dana Plato made a career comeback in some sort of way for posing for Playboy, and the media was harsh on her as a child star, which people tend to can't erase kids' images that she had. They couldn't erase her from Diff'rent Strokes. And I feel that's a problem with the public in general, is that we're always so used to seeing someone in one sort of light and narrative that we can't just handle them growing up and trying different things. Playboy is a double-edged sword, in my opinion. On one hand, I think it has pushed the women's movement forward in the sense where women can be sexual in nature and be provocative and show off what they want to show and be very confident in that as well. But also, on the other hand, there's a lot with Hugh Hefner that's very shady, in my opinion, and there are videos out there on that as well.
Light came with a price.
I think the biggest pressure is that you have no friends. You know, and the only thing people want from you is what they think they can get from you. And that's a real pressure when you lose your friends and you just don't know how to be. You can't be a kid.
Take a quick look inside the June issue of Playboy, and it's easy to see that Dana is no longer a little girl. Her decision to bear all for the magazine has created quite a stir, and the last thing you'd call her is modest.
You know, I'm more comfortable naked than I am like in an outfit I don't feel comfortable in. I've tried to wear something that isn't me. Yeah, I'd much rather just wear me.
This clip in 1989, she said she had no friends in the entertainment world and how she feels alone all the time. And you can just see the sadness in her eyes when she says that, I find. And she only feels comfortable naked, really. And she then spent every cent of her money on drinking and drugs. And I think her idea behind the Playboy was because LaToya Jackson in this time came out with this like new image of having publicity for Playboy and was the most sold Playboy of all time. So this was in the same year as that. So she, I feel, went that route and decided to go with that route, and I feel she was following in that footsteps in reviving her career as well with that idea. She then moved to Las Vegas, Nevada, and then did a bunch of mundane jobs such as dry cleaners and even cleaning up garbage, which she felt she didn't have enough money to be alive, so she had to do the unthinkable next. Her life took a turn even further when on February 28, 1991, Plato entered a video store, brought a pellet gun, and demanded the money from the cash register. The clerk later called 911 and said, "I've just been robbed by the girl who played Kimberly on Diff'rent Strokes." And the people probably she said the people on the phone were probably thinking she was insane or something, or she was on something. But then approximately 15 minutes after the robbery, Plato returned to the scene and was immediately arrested. She had stolen $164. So I feel like Dana felt guilty in some way, and I think that's why she returned it, because she was like, this is not me, I need to return this. And I think she did this out of pure survival, and she went into survival mode when she was doing this.
26-year-old Plato was out of cash, and her rent, $550, was past due. When her application was rejected for a $6 an hour job picking up garbage and cleaning bathrooms in her building, Plato turned to desperate measures.
As an alcoholic, you act out. I knew I was dying. I knew, my subconscious knew that if I didn't do something very, very drastic, within a week or 10 days or 14 days, I would be dead.
On February 28, 1991, Dana did something drastic. According to Lake Video store clerk Heather Daly, this was a day she would never forget.
It was a Thursday morning. I got there at 10, and the first thing we always do is count our tails, like anywhere else. And so, almost when I was done doing that, she came in and walked right up to the counter. She had a black hat on, black baseball jacket, and she acted as though she had a gun.
And I literally said, just like we're sitting here right now, I said, "Give me all your money." That must have just been the funniest damn thing she saw in her whole life.
My response was, "You've got to be kidding." And she pointed at me, she goes,
"No, I'm not kidding. It was just like this. You know, there's no threat, there was no anything."
She was very cool. She acted like she'd done it before. She had no problem with it. And I think that's why I was more in shock than fear, because it just didn't seem real at the time.
Heather did not reveal there was more than $1,000 in a nearby safe. Instead, the clerk handed over $164 from the cash register. That was good enough for Dana. With the money in her hand, she fled the store. It wasn't a clean getaway, however. Heather recognized the former actress.
I stood there in shock for about 3 minutes, and then I called 911, and I told them, the girl of Diff'rent Strokes, Kimberly Drummond, just robbed me. And the operator kept quizzing me as though she thought I was crazy. And I said, you tell me that there's a patrol car on the way, and I'll tell you everything you want to know.
I think Dana is just a bad criminal if you return to the crime scene. Like, girl, if you got the money, you need to just run. Do not return to the scene. Like, that is just like the worst criminal thing that could happen. And so she spent 5 days in jail and was bailed by entertainer Wayne Newton with posted $13,000 on her bail, and was put under 5 years probation, along with having to do 400 hours of community service. And then in January 1992, Plato was arrested again for the second time for forging a prescription for a drug, and she served 30 days in jail for violating the terms of her probation and immediately entered a drug rehabilitation program. In 1992, she finally meets and reunites with her biological mother, Linda Strain, who could not take care of her at the age of 18, but they finally met and they were even on Maury together. She also immediately began working in Hollywood again in 1992 and tried to get her life back together, especially for her son Tyler to show that she's a good mother and everything. And she began starring in B movies such as Bikini Beach Race, Lethal Cowboy, Millennium Day, Compelling Evidence throughout 1992 for the next couple of years. And honestly, many of these movies are quite cheap and seem to be all over the place. Like, it was written by an amateur, which they're very kitschy movies. And I tried to watch Bikini Beach Race, but it was hard to follow. I would say it was all over the place. It feels like a 1992 movie that belonged in the 60s, but I love a race, I love a beach, but I felt it was just all over the place. And I mean, honestly, if you guys are interested in more of my detailed thoughts on this, and if we want to do a retrospective on Dana Plato B-list movies, we can totally do that. This is Obscure Nick, so I'm ready. I'm always down for talking about obscure movies. Like, we could do Bikini Beach Race, because I do find it's interesting in the sense of how crazy it is. And this is Obscure Nick, like I said, we could talk about obscure movies that nobody talks about at all, that are probably rated the worst in the world, but I would love to open that conversation for you. And throughout the next couple of years, Dana seemed very on and off throughout the mid-90s, and you could feel that she had herself together at times and other times not so much. And she would appear on talk shows like Maury, Sally Jesse Raphael, Suzanne Summers Show, and many more.
Diff'rent Strokes star Dana Plato is back with us again, this time with a personal plea for help.
In the later part of the 90s, in November 1997, Dana reunited for the first time on TV with her Diff'rent Strokes co-stars since the show ended on Sinbad's late-night TV talk show. Honestly, this clip makes me smile for Dana and Gary and Todd, because they all seem relaxed and they seem to all be having a good time, Even though they seem to resent the show at times, when they were all together and in this moment in 1997...
Doing that movie, you could have made money. I blew it. Now, I understand the first time you met Todd Bridges, you were going into a class, right?
Well, I met him, we did our, a thing to get the job. We had a little audition together. And then when I really met him, I went into school. It was a rehearsal hall, a big room, long room. Just the teacher, just Todd, and I opened the door, and this huge history book comes flying right past my head.
It was history, man. They don't tell black history. That's why I threw the book.
Why didn't you wait till I walked in?
I wanted to hear about black history.
And you threw the book at her.
And then came a white girl. You know I was upset.
And now you're married to one.
Yeah, you see that? You know what? You know how that happened? Let me tell you what happened.
Sit tight, we'll get that story.
I'll tell you that.
We'll be right back.
They seem to really enjoy the memories. They could enjoy them together because they experienced it together, I think, and they had that tight-knit, close group. And they don't seem stressed or anything, and there's no drama or anything. And it was about happier times and funnier times, and they could laugh. And I feel this was a moment in the 90s where they all three of them seemed relaxed. Even though there was a lot of chaos going on with their life, they seemed to be finally like, I feel good this feels like family with you guys. You know what I mean? That's the type of vibe it gives. And I know there will never be a Diff'rent Strokes reboot. And, you know, that's okay. Because I truthfully don't believe in reboots. But I'm glad they had this reunion before things took a turn. And I'm so glad they had this moment. Like, I'm so happy for them. Like, truthfully. In 1997, Dana was doing more movies such as Tiger, Blade Boxer, and then in 1998 she starred in the X-rated film named after Diff'rent Strokes, her show in a film called Diff'rent Strokes, the story of Jack and Jill and Jill. And for 1998, this was considered very racy, where now our media is so different, but in the 90s, this was not acceptable at all. And I think a lot of people throughout thought she was bisexual and used her sexuality against her for kissing a woman and being naked with one on this film, and the reviewers did not like this. It wasn't that spicy in my opinion, and the acting wasn't, you know, the best in the world either. It was very tame, but it was quite an elegant erotic film compared to the thing that people reacted to most mainly was her kissing another woman, and how it showed how homophobic our society was at that time. And in today's world, it doesn't matter as much. So, however, it was more of an avant-garde film, and I think it would have been done better if they influenced that more into the film, like make him even more avant-garde and bizarre. And again, we can talk about these Dana Plato B-list movies in another video. Dana was even shocked at how people reacted to this, but also I felt she knew what she was doing too. She was like, I'm gonna give some shock value. You guys are gonna be all talking about it, and this is what it is. And you can see in this video, this clip here of her just speaking about it.
I will honestly say that's the only film I've ever taken for money. I thought, well, okay, few days, you know, nice wad of money. Let's try it. Why not?
While the title echoed Dana's innocent sitcom past in primetime, one scene in the X-rated film showed her in a sexual act with another woman.
I played a lesbian in this film, right, which is already controversial. So I'm thinking, okay, this is cool. You know, this is going to be fun because people are like totally going to get off on this one. And then it turned out that I had this love scene with the woman while our nipples touched, and now it's X-rated. I'm in a porno.
There was another movie around this time called Desperation Boulevard, which was a movie based on her life story, which came out in 1998. Never seen this, but I would like to. She also did a movie called Silent Scream that was released in 1999, and her final movie was called Pinnacle is Missing, probably filmed in 1999, but released in 2002, where she played a lawyer, and that was her last role. However, in 1999, during this time, living in a motorhome in Florida with her manager, Robert McKasha, I'm sorry if I pronounce this wrong, who she was engaged to at the time, she also was had a really good relationship with her son Tyler, and she finally had herself together, and she reconnected with him, and this was her final appearance on Inside Edition right before What Comes Next.
Her final broadcast TV interview.
Hey, how are you?
Dana, how are you?
Nice to see you. I'm lovely. I'm well, I am, and I feel really good in my heart. I'm well in my heart, you know.
When Dana Plato spoke with us in February, we had no idea this would be her final broadcast TV interview.
Right now, it's just a time for Dana.
We had found the former Diff'rent Strokes star in Tulsa, Oklahoma, after friends and family had told us she had vanished, and we asked her how long she had been drug-free.
Gosh, it's been like 88, maybe, 88 or 89, 87, way back when. I have, now, I will say, I did. I have fallen off and I've had a beer here and there. I have done that.
Watching Dana in one of her final interviews, you can't help but notice the lost potential of this one-time TV sweetheart.
I'm doing real well. I am, and I am. I'm a happy girl.
And then on May 7, 1999, Dana appeared on The Howard Stern Show, where she spoke about her life, discussing her financial problems and her past run-ins with the law, and she admitted to being a recovering alcoholic and drug addict on this show. But she claimed to be sober for more than 10 years by that point and was not using any drugs with the exception of prescribed painkillers due to her wisdom teeth extraction that she had recently. However, many of the callers were calling her a liar, and they questioned her sobriety, and they were angered, and they provoked her.
Out of here. She's a has-been.
Oh, please.
Come on. Well, she just needs to admit that she's an ex-druggie, ex-con, lesbian with mental health problems.
So that's your impression of her?
Yeah.
Well, she denies that she's a
I
lesbian.
don't deny anything.
She's trying to resurrect her career.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Trying to make some money again.
No, excuse me.
There's nothing wrong with that if you're honest.
I'm honest. I am a drug addict, alcoholic. I am always in recovering. Okay,
Right.
I am recovering. Alcoholic,
You're an
drug addict.
alcoholic, ex-con, lesbian with mental health problems.
Have you ever done...
Oh, do you know this for sure, sir?
Absolutely not.
Okay, then how can you
That's
make
what
those
it sounds like.
accusations?
I was just wondering, I mean, you sound a little wired on the radio. I don't know if it's just being 8 o'clock in the morning and all, but I know you say you're recovering for 10 years and all, but it just sounds like you're really speedy.
Why don't you ask everyone around here, do I look high?
You do? She does, Jackie?
Her eyes are the size of...
Okay, all right.
I was wondering if she was still sleeping with that black guy that she was with a couple while ago, and if she's still cracked up on all those pills. She definitely sounds like a washout.
Well, no. She says she's not high anymore.
He says he saw her on St. Mark's.
Hey, you want a UA? I'll do a UA right now.
What's a UA?
A urine test.
Urine analysis. Yeah, really?
I'll do it right now.
Go knock your head up. You knock your headphones up. You will do a urine test?
I will do it right
All
now.
right, Gary, get me a cup, please. How many rumors for him? I've never met anybody so
You know how
controversial.
hard it is for me to go through life? You don't even know.
Oh, I bet you I do know. It seems to me like everybody's attacking you.
That is why I moved out of the city.
You got out.
I'm gone. I'm done with that. I see, I'm tired of defending my character.
I know.
I am who I am. What you see is what you get. What I
Right.
say is what I mean. This is it.
This is it.
You know?
Wow.
I'm about peace, man. That's about, you know?
Really?
Treat your neighbor right or recycle, you know?
You're into recycling?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get into that.
All I'm trying to say is that, and I do a lot of community service, you know?
Right. What kind of community service?
Anything. When I was in LA, I fed the homeless.
You did?
Oh, yes. Yes, 3 times a week.
I never did that.
You're a good person.
Better than us?
I'm a nice girl. I'm a nice girl. I really am. And, you know, these people can think what they want, and I do understand it's always been bad. It's okay. I understand. And I really apologize if I really offended anybody. I'm sorry.
You didn't offend me.
And there was also a guy that was trying to use her bisexuality against her from that movie the previous year as a way to insult her and throw her down. And they were just finding any way to just really throw her down in this interview. It's inhumane, it's cruel. And I wonder how those people feel now about what they've said.
Julie, hi, you're on the air.
Hi, I just want to tell you that, first of all, everyone always calls in to insult the famous people who are on the show, and I totally think I think they just want to hear themselves speak. Dana, I think that you sound great, and I think that it's fantastic that you're feeling so good about yourself, because I know somebody who actually was a star on, about 15 years ago as a teenager, and...
So you support Dana and you...
Excuse me?
You seem very upset.
You have touched her.
You have touched her. You're crying, I see.
This is the nicest thing, really. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
You've really taken a lot of crap, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll console you.
Well, I think you sound fabulous. I don't understand why people are all attacking you.
I don't either. I really don't. But if that's okay.
You might need to smoke a little weed.
You know what's funny about that is when I did used to smoke pot, people thought I was normal. Now that I'm straight, they think I'm on speed.
Wow.
No joke.
Right.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Anytime.
And thanks for giving us this exclusive. You have come out of hiding, and it's great to see you. Dana Plato. Yeah, Dana Plato.
But she did bawl her eyes out when someone did say something nice to her, because honestly, I don't think she heard anything nice in the longest time at that point in 1999 about her from someone from the public. And she felt someone, you know, has faith in her. However, after this interview on May 1999, Plato and her manager, her fiance at the time, were returning to California and stopped by her fiance's mother's home in Oklahoma for a Mother Day visit, and she wanted to see her son Tyler, who was eager to see her. And later on in the visit, Plato said that she felt unwell and she took a few doses of a painkiller drug and a muscle relaxant and went to lie down inside her motorhome, and which was parked on the outside of the house. And then upon waking up, her fiance and their family discovered Plato had died in her sleep, initially assuming it was an accidental overdose, but later it was said that it was a suicide based on Plato's long-term history with substance abuse. And Plato's body was cremated and her ashes were scattered all over the Pacific Ocean. But that is especially on Mother's Day, like, that is just, her son and her family must have felt like, oh my God, that must have felt so surreal, and that was a super traumatic thing. Like, I can't even process the feelings of what they had, because to me that is very tragic and just alarming in general. And I think her death was more of an accidental overdose, in my opinion, because she didn't know how much she was taking. And she was asked before if she would ever, end her life, but she said she couldn't because of her son Tyler, and I think Tyler was always her first priority in a lot of ways. So I do believe it was an accidental overdose, but I don't know what you guys would think. Like, please let me know in the comments below. And things even went worse. Like, later on, 10 years later, in 2010, her son Tyler shot himself up with a self-inflicted gunshot blast to his head at the age of 26. And it's like as if he wanted to be with his mom again and he felt alone. And he followed in his mom's footsteps, and in the worst way possible, but I think he couldn't be happy unless she was around. And I think that's a lot. Like, I'm sorry, I was like, I don't want to get emotional here, but my heart goes out for this family. My heart really does. There's some people in this world have a lot of pain and struggle, like, truthfully, and we don't know what people are always dealing with, and we should really be considerate of how other people feel, and we should try to learn to love someone who may seem like they may feel alone, and even if they're the happiest person in the world, and even, just give that person an extra hug, like, at the end of the day, because you never know what someone's really going through. My thoughts on Dana is that she was a lost child that had abandonment issues. She was scrutinized by the public, which helped nothing, in my opinion. I do think being in the entertainment industry has made things worse, and I could definitely see her being taken advantage of by producers at a young age and even later in life, and people of that nature. And she had many addictions she couldn't break. She's made into a bad girl, and she was Hollywood's first true bad girl. And she tried her best to live for her son and to give him a good, stable life. It's just sad that she lost her life and she lost that chance. And I wonder if she would be alive today, of how things would be different. I really wonder. I would like to end this video on a note uploaded by Dana's former roommate. Whoever this person is, thank you for uploading it. This is video from 1994 of her singing On and On. And I just wanted to end on this note of showing her beauty and her authentic self for what it was. And I hope you guys enjoy this, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and much love to you all.
Quiet.
Someone's got to push pause.
Push pause and move away.
I just got to try one more time. I just love this song.
Zoom it up, Scarlett. You ready?
Yeah. Push pause.
Like menopause, yeah? Stand by. Stand by. I got to do.
Damn it! I pushed play, push pause. break your heart. Lao Shan Su, he's in love with old Sam, taken from the fire into the frying pan. On and on, he just keeps on trying, and he smiles when she feels like crying. On and on, on and on, on and on. Jimmy sees the Lord in the moonlight, saw his woman kiss another man, so he steals the ladder, steals the stars from the sky, puts on Sinatra and starts to cry. On and on, he just keeps on trying, and he smiles when he feels like crying. On and on, on and on, on and on. Well, my first time's my last time, make me feel. But if you know it, show it. Hold on tight, don't let her say goodbye. The sun on my shoulders and the toes in the sand. Before some other man, but I don't care. I keep dreaming sweet things. Toss up a heart to see where it lands. On and on, I just keep on trying, and I smile when I feel like dying. On and on, on and on, on and on. On and on, on and on, on and on. On and on, on and on, on and on. Ooh.
No, now we do it together. I want to hear it in there though. Was that in key at all?